You know the feeling, when the night is late and no one is calling your name, yet your hand still reaches for the phone as if it could fill a space. The blue light burns into tired eyes. Your heart skips faster, your breath turns shallow, but you keep scrolling as if something important is about to appear. Or the moment you swear you will have just one drink, but a few hours later, your hand trembles slightly as you pour the third, your throat dry and raw, and in your mind a voice rises that you cannot control. Just this once. You hate that feeling because it makes you realize there is a part of you pulling the strings, and it is not you. This is the trap of addiction. It does not only take the shape of drugs or alcohol, it hides in the harmless, in screens, in food, in habits that look ordinary. Addiction does not discriminate, as long as it helps you avoid the silence you are afraid to face. And the danger is not that you are unaware. The danger is that you know it very well, and you still do it. Carl Jung would tell you, this is not weakness. It is a message you have never learned how to hear. Every craving is not an enemy, but a language. It is a mirror that repeats itself, reminding you that there is a part of you that has never been acknowledged. So the real question is not, how do I kill the craving? But what is inside me that is speaking through this craving? When you are brave enough to face it, you discover that the craving no longer has the same control. And from that moment on, addiction begins to lose its power. How many times have you started the day with the promise, "Today, I will be different"? And only a few hours later, you find yourself in the same chair, repeating the same behavior you swore you would stop. At first, it was a commitment. Then it turned into a lie you told yourself. And finally, it became the heavy feeling that you can no longer trust your own word. Imagine a friend who keeps making plans with you only to cancel at the last minute again and again. Eventually, you would stop believing in them. What happens when that person is you? There are two familiar situations almost everyone has been in. The first is the phone. You open it just to check one message, then scroll for 5 minutes, then 10, until 2 hours disappear, and you cannot even remember what you came to check. During that time, your heart beats faster, your eyes ache, your throat is dry, but still you keep staring at the glow of the screen. The second is when you reach for a substance or a habit like drinking, smoking, or eating far beyond what your body needs. You swear it is only this once, but the moment the glass touches your lips or the sugar hits your tongue, you know the promise is already broken. And when it is over, what remains is not pleasure, but a quiet emptiness. The deeper pain lives in what no one else can see. On the outside, you still smile, you still work, you still reply to messages as if everything is fine. But inside, you feel the gap widening between the person you are living as and the person you want to become. Every time you lose to the craving, you feel yourself slipping further away from that image. And at some point, you look in the mirror and no longer know who you are. In that moment, you are not sure you belong anywhere. Many believe that addiction is proof of weakness, but Jung would offer another perspective. Addiction does not arrive to destroy you. It arrives as a language. Every craving is a signal, a short broadcast from the unconscious saying, "There is something here that has not been touched." When you repeat the old behavior, it is not because you are undisciplined. It is because you have not yet learned to speak the language of craving. So the real issue is not the strength of your willpower. It is your ability to pause and ask, what is this craving trying to say? Because as long as you call it failure, the cycle will keep tightening around you. But the moment you treat it as a signal, you create a crack in the loop. And sometimes even the smallest crack is enough to let you breathe again. Carl Jung once warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." When you fall into addiction, this is the moment the unconscious takes control. You believe you are making a choice, but in truth, another part of you, the part buried, the part you refuse to see, has already chosen for you. Jung called this state possession, being taken over. A craving is not something outside forcing itself on you. It is an echo rising from the shadow within that you have never dared to face. Look directly at an example. You suppress anger all day, and by night, you need a drink. The alcohol is not in control. The buried anger is. You fear loneliness, so you open your phone and scroll without end. The phone is not the addict. The fear is. You are not addicted to the object. You are addicted to the feeling it gives you, the feeling that helps you avoid the truth you cannot touch. And here is the tragedy. Every time you do this, you widen the distance between the self you truly are and the self you perform for the world. Stoicism offers another angle that complements Jung. Epictetus once said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." A craving in itself is not a disaster. It is how you look at it, the label you attach, that decides how powerful it becomes. When you call a craving a failure, you turn it into a weapon against yourself. When you dare to call it a signal, you reclaim part of your power. This moment matters. Because the instant you change perspective, you are no longer a victim being pulled. You become an observer. And from the position of the observer, you can choose. It may sound small, but that choice is the beginning of freedom. A craving, seen through the lens of Jung and Stoicism, is no longer a stain, but an opportunity. Jung teaches that inside the darkness lies the seed of light. Stoicism reminds you that you cannot control the world outside, but you can control how you respond. Together, they show you the same truth. A craving is information. It is telling you there is something here still unhealed. And sometimes, the simple act of pausing to listen to that information is already a step very few people ever take. It is the step of finally turning to face yourself. Have you ever wondered why your rational mind knows what is right, yet your body pulls you in the opposite direction? In the morning, you swear you will not repeat it, but only a few hours later, you find yourself doing the very thing you promised to stop. You even hear a voice in your head, just this once. And when it ends, you sit there, heavy, hating yourself, promising next time will be different. But next time is not different. This is not weakness. It is proof that the unconscious is in control. Carl Jung called this phenomenon possession, being taken over. When emotions are denied, they do not disappear. They return in the form of craving. The more you try to press them down, the more violently the craving rises. It is like a ball forced underwater. You use all your strength to hold it at the bottom, but the longer you keep it there, the stronger the rebound becomes. At some point, it shoots to the surface with a force that takes your breath away. Addiction is the same. The more you deny your anger, your sadness, your fear, the more the craving will scream to be seen. The loop is simple but ruthless. Suppression, craving, behavior, guilt, suppression. It turns like a wheel, and you think you are running away, but you are only running in circles inside a spinning cage. More dangerous still, this loop runs so quietly that you start to believe it is your nature. But in truth, it is only the mechanism of the unconscious that has never been recognized. And here is the cold truth. If you do not see this loop, you will lose more than time or health. You will lose your very identity. You will live an entire life like a sleepwalker, calling it fate, when in fact, you are being led by the unconscious. I want you to hear this because it matters. If you stay until the end of this video, you will see what most people never understand in a lifetime. The truth about the so-called strong and the so-called weak before addiction. And you will realize that strength is not the absence of craving, it is the ability to translate the message hidden inside it. Because craving, so often labeled failure, is actually a language. It is a knock from the shadow within. When you call it an enemy, it binds you tighter. When you call it a signal, it opens a small crack toward freedom. The moment you dare to ask, "What is inside me is speaking," the loop begins to fracture. Craving does not come to destroy, it comes to guide. And from the instant you recognize this, you are no longer only a victim inside the loop. You have become the one standing outside, observing. Imagine stepping into a dark chamber, and at the center sits an old furnace. Inside it, a dim red flame burns steadily, hot enough to melt any metal placed within. The air is heavy, thick, and every breath feels scorching. Smoke curls in the air, carrying the sharp metallic tang that makes your lungs sting. You hear the crackling sound of heat, like the tension in your body splitting open. On the table lies a dull block of lead, heavy and seemingly worthless. Ancient alchemists called this the art of transmutation, turning lead into gold. But for you, this furnace is a mirror of your inner war, and addiction is the way you are thrown into the fire again and again. Every time a craving rises, it is like the sudden surge of that flame. Your heart races, sweat breaks out, your breath shortens, panic whispers to run, to escape, to open the door and get away. But the truth is, the moment you choose to stay inside the heat, transformation begins. Addiction is not the enemy that wants to burn you down. It is the furnace that tests whether you are willing to let pain melt into something new. This furnace has three qualities you cannot ignore. The first is the heat itself, the searing intensity that represents the pain you always try to avoid. It makes you restless, it makes you want to hide, yet it is only by standing inside it that something changes. The second is the acrid metallic scent, sharp and invasive, like old memories or hidden shame you thought were gone, but rise again each time craving appears. The third is the faint glow spilling from the furnace, dim but strangely beautiful, representing the potential within you that only reveals itself when you dare to remain in the fire. And here you stand with two choices. The first is to run, clutching the block of lead in your pocket, carrying its dead weight through the years until it bends your back and drains your life. The second is to endure the furnace, to face the smoke, the heat, the bitter smell, until the day the lead inside you softens, breaks, and turns to gold. In that moment, you are not only surviving, you are reborn. And this is the hidden secret. Craving is not the fire meant to destroy you. It is the precise temperature needed for alchemy. The question is not how do you escape it. The question is whether you will stay long enough to witness yourself transform. If you are honest, you will see it clearly. You are not addicted to the phone, to alcohol, to cigarettes, or to any substance. You are addicted to the feeling they give you, the feeling that helps you temporarily silence the echo inside. Addiction does not cling to objects. It clings to the space you have not yet faced. You do not truly want to open your phone 15 times an hour. You simply cannot stand the moment the screen is dark. You are not really thirsty for alcohol. You are thirsty for the quiet in your head being soothed, even for just a few minutes. Think back to your last craving. Your heart raced, your stomach tightened, your hands trembled, your eyes locked onto one spot as if disconnected from the world around you. In that moment, it felt as if you did not give in, you would explode. But when the wave passed, what remained was not joy, but emptiness. It was like scratching a wound, relief for a few seconds. Then the pain returns, deeper than before. And so you repeat. The circle closes again. The most frightening part is not others watching you fail, but you watching yourself fail, over and over. Each time you lose to a craving, you lose a little more trust in yourself. And when that trust runs dry, you begin to ask, if I cannot even control myself, then who am I? In that moment, you are no longer sure you are truly present in your own life. Addiction does not take you in one night. It erodes you slowly, turning you into a moving shadow, repeating behaviors as if programmed. Until one day you realize you are no longer the author of your life. You are only a stand-in for the unconscious. This truth is hard to accept, but it must be said. You are not addicted to objects. You are addicted to avoidance. You have used repetitive behavior as a broken language to express pain that has no name. And until you learn the real language, addiction will keep directing you in silence. Every time a craving rises, you tend to call it heavy names, failure, weakness, or guilt. Those words become chains that bind you tighter. But pause and imagine what would happen if you changed the language. Instead of saying, I lost again, you whisper, this is a reminder. When language changes, the experience changes. And when the experience changes, the identity shifts with it. A craving seen from another angle is no longer an enemy. It is a compass, and each time the needle points in a direction, it is guiding you toward an unexplored place within yourself. You can choose to curse the compass and say it made you lose. But the truth is that it is only pointing the way. That path may lead to a wound, a memory, or a fear you buried long ago. The more you deny it, the more the needle spins. The more you face it, the clearer it becomes. Carl Jung once said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Light does not come from daydreaming. It comes from looking directly at the dark. And in this new language, a craving becomes a small torch that shines into the places where the darkness lives. Hear a gentle warning that you will remember. If you keep calling a craving a failure, the loop will never stop. The unconscious will not let go until it has been seen. It will return stronger and more persistent until you stop calling it by the wrong names. You give away your power. You sacrifice your identity. You disappear inside the loop. Each time you curse the craving, you reinforce those invisible chains. But if you change how you name it, you take hold of the first crack in freedom. So, what is the new language? Instead of I am weak, say I am being reminded. Instead of saying I failed, say I am being shown the way. It is simple, and the power is there, because language not only describes the world, it creates the world you live in. This is the inner declaration that turns the axis. I am no longer a puppet pulled by craving. I am the observer. And from that position, I have the power to choose. When you truly believe this, the craving loses control, and you begin to step out of the loop. What you need now is not lofty theory, but 3 small steps you can apply the very next time a craving comes. Step 1. Name it. When your hand trembles to unlock your phone for the 10th time, or when your throat burns with the urge for another drink, whisper to yourself, this is a craving. Naming it is like switching on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, you see exactly where you are. Step 2. Observe the body. Instead of diving into the behavior, pause for a beat. Feel the heart racing, the shallow breath, the stomach tightening. Don't judge. Just observe, as if you are standing outside looking in. This is the moment you withstand the heat of the furnace. Step 3. Choose one different action, no matter how small. Write down a single sentence, take 10 deep breaths, or step outside and walk for 5 minutes. The substitute action doesn't have to be big. It just has to be enough to remind you that you still have a choice. The point is not to extinguish the craving, but to remain in the heat long enough to choose again. Each time you do this, you are turning lead into gold, proving to yourself that freedom begins not with giant victories, but with the smallest of choices. Addiction always demands a price, and it demands it piece by piece until you no longer realize how much you have already paid. The first prize is youth. You think it is just a few meaningless minutes scrolling, just a few drinks to forget the stress, but added together, they become empty years. The second price is identity. Each time you lose to a craving, you lose a little more trust in yourself. And one day, you look into the mirror and you are no longer sure who is staring back. The final price, the most brutal of all, is freedom. Addiction does not need chains. It uses habit to turn you into a prisoner inside your own life. That moment is invisible to others, but you know exactly what is slipping away. Carl Jung warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. If you do not change, the loop continues and you will name it destiny." But the truth is, it is not fate. It is only the unconscious steering you in silence. And here lies the tragedy. You can live an entire lifetime like a sleepwalker, convinced that you had no choice. But Jung also left you another door. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. You are not your collapses. You are not the years already lost. You are the choice you make in this moment. This means that every craving is not a sentence, but an opening to stop, to name, to observe, and to choose again. An opening to prove to yourself that freedom is not the absence of craving. It is the refusal to be led by them. The cost of closing your eyes to the truth is the loss of an entire life unlived. The reward of awakening is a strength no one can take from you, and that strength waits right now in the very moment you face the next craving. Imagine walking through a quiet forest after the rain. The ground is damp, the scent of wet leaves lingers in the air, and the path ahead is scattered with small stones. Each craving is like one of those stones lying across your way, forcing you to bend down and decide. Will you step over it as if it never existed, or will you pick it up and look closer? Others may see nothing but obstacles, but if you are patient, you notice that each stone carries its own mark, like a small map guiding you towards something you need to learn. Most people run their whole lives along this road, kicking the stones aside, only to realize at the end that they missed the very signs that could have saved them. But you are different. You have begun to understand that craving is not a trap meant to break you. It is a stone pointing the way. It does not hold you back. It shows you where to pause, where to see yourself more clearly. So the next time a craving appears, treat it as a sign on the journey, not as proof of failure. Because sometimes what you have been searching for is not waiting at the end of the road. It is hidden in the very stones you once tried to avoid. And if what I share here resonates with you, stay with me by subscribing, because perhaps on the path ahead, there are still stones you need to pick up, and I will be here walking beside you to see what has been carved into them.